Imagine waking up one morning, flipping on the news and hearing the words, "A nuclear missile is heading toward the United States." That's the chilling premise behind Kathryn Bigelow's latest film, The House of Dynamite. It's not a sci-fi fantasy or a superhero movie. It's a terrifyingly realistic look at what could happen if the unthinkable took place. Within minutes, chaos erupts inside the highest levels of government. Politicians, generals, and advisors are forced to make split-second decisions that could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. And while the movie's drama feels cinematic, experts who study nuclear war say some parts hit frighteningly close to reality, while others completely miss the mark. So, what does A House of Dynamite get right and wrong about the end of the world? Let's break down what real nuclear experts had to say, and why this film has everyone talking about a topic most of us try not to think about anymore. The film opens quietly, almost peacefully. America's nuclear defense level, known as DEFCON, sits at 4, meaning things are calm, routine, and unthreatened. Then, without warning, radar screens light up. A single nuclear missile is spotted speeding across the Pacific, aimed at the heart of the U.S. In less than 30 minutes, the country could face unimaginable destruction. It's a nightmare scenario that instantly grips viewers. But according to nuclear experts, it's not the most realistic one. Matthew Bunn from Harvard's Kennedy School says Hollywood loves the bolt-from-the-blue approach, one missile suddenly launched out of nowhere. But that's not how nuclear wars usually start. He explains that real nuclear conflict would almost always come from escalation, a political or military crisis spiraling out of control, not a random attack on a sunny afternoon. And if someone did decide to attack, Bunn adds, they'd likely fire multiple warheads, not just one, because, he says, no one in their right mind fires one missile at a superpower. But once that single missile is airborne, the film turns its focus to America's response system, and this is where things get both tense and technically interesting. We watch as soldiers at Fort Greely, Alaska, scramble to launch interceptor missiles, hoping to shoot the warhead out of the sky before it reaches U.S. soil. It's a gripping moment, filled with alarms, countdowns, and human panic. In the film, 2 interceptors are fired. The first fails, the second misses. Disaster seems inevitable. But experts say this part isn't entirely accurate either. Jeffrey Lewis, a scholar at Middlebury College, notes that real-life protocol would involve firing at least 4 interceptors, not 2. That increases the odds dramatically. And while failures are possible, the technology isn't perfect. The idea that the entire defense system would miss that easily is unlikely, at least if it's just one missile. The real problem, Lewis warns, isn't 1 or 2 warheads. It's when hundreds start coming. Then, even the most advanced defense systems would crumble. As the missile races toward impact, the movie transitions into what many viewers are calling its most gripping and realistic sequence, the Doomsday Zoom call. It's here that the president, played with chilling restraint by Idris Elba, meets with generals, advisors, and cabinet members over a secure video link. And according to real-world nuclear experts, this setup isn't Hollywood fiction. It's based on an actual process known as the Threat Assessment Conference Call, which becomes the Missile Attack Conference Call if the threat is confirmed. Stephen Schwartz, a nuclear historian, explained that this is exactly how such an emergency would unfold, with senior officials joining the line from different command centers, including the White House Situation Room and U.S. Strategic Command's underground facility in Omaha. Rose Gottemoeller, former Deputy Secretary General of NATO, even praised the film's attention to detail, from the red phones to the shadowy lighting, saying it looked scarily authentic. One of the most haunting moments in A House of Dynamite comes when the president's aide opens the iconic football, the briefcase that contains America's nuclear launch options. Experts like Schwartz and Lewis were quick to note how accurately it's depicted, down to the Presidential Decision Handbook, which lists pre-authorized strike plans. But what's more chilling is the human tension that seeps through. These are people, not robots, sitting in those rooms, their phones buzzing with messages from family while they debate the fate of millions. Aaron Dumbacher from the Council on Foreign Relations noted that even in such high-security environments, personal emotion would inevitably seep through. The film shows them breaking small rules, sneaking in personal devices, clinging to fragments of normal life as the world teeters on collapse. It's a rare, humanizing depiction that captures how chaos might really unfold when the unthinkable becomes real. As the clock ticks toward impact, the film's moral and strategic tension reaches its peak. The president faces an impossible choice. Should he order an immediate counterstrike or hold fire until the truth is clear? His aide, clutching the football, insists on a well-done response, a preset option meant to demonstrate strength. But according to experts, this is where the movie veers from reality. In an actual nuclear scenario, the U.S. president would likely be advised to ride out the attack rather than retaliate instantly. America's deterrence strategy is built around what's called a second strike capability, meaning the country can respond even after being hit. Experts like Jeffrey Lewis pointed out that striking back without knowing who launched the missile would make no sense. It could even be a false alarm or a cyber spoof. In truth, restraint, not retaliation, might be the bravest move of all. In the film, that restraint never fully materializes. The tension builds, alarms blare, and the countdown feels suffocating. But experts emphasize that real leaders would likely pause to confirm every detail before unleashing global devastation. They'd wait for impact, assess whether the detonation actually happened, and analyze the nuclear material to determine its origin. Within minutes, U.S. labs and intelligence agencies could trace the bomb's isotopic fingerprint to a specific nation. It's a chilling but vital step, because in a world where one false signal can start Armageddon, information is power. The movie skips over this nuance for dramatic effect, but that's Hollywood's nature. What it captures perfectly, though, is the paralysis of uncertainty, the realization that even the most powerful man in the world can only watch, hope, and wait. That helplessness, experts say, is terrifyingly real. As the credits roll on A House of Dynamite, the audience is left shaken. Not because of explosions or CGI, but because of how close this all feels to reality. Experts agree, despite a few dramatic liberties, the film succeeds in forcing us to confront something we've pushed to the back of our minds. Nuclear war isn't a relic of the Cold War. It's a living threat. With rising global tensions, failing treaties, and expanding arsenals in the US, Russia, and China, the movie feels less like fiction and more like a warning. Daryl Kimball from the Arms Control Association called it a wake-up call, urging viewers to ask, what can we do now to prevent this? Maybe that's the real brilliance of A House of Dynamite. It doesn't just tell a story, it reignites a conversation about survival, responsibility, and the fragile thread holding our world together.